Happy New Year, Stampers. This is Melissa Johnson, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and you are stamping with MJ. It's January 1st, 2026. Can you believe it? I feel like 2025 just went and it was gone. I don't know what happened to the whole year, but here we are, January again. Fortunately, the days are getting longer, so gotta like that. All right, we're going to make 2 fun fold cards today. One, we're going to use the pop-up Petals bundle. So this is a stamp and die set that makes a fun pop-out piece inside your card. And I've kind of made the fun fold a little more of a fun fold than just that pop-out. These labels come from the branching out dies. I believe this is on the last chance list. I didn't check to see if it's still available. But guys, these are great dies. I would make sure if you haven't picked them up, pick them up. Now, the thing about the last chance list, don't buy it as the bundle. You'll save money buying them separately because they don't mark the bundle price down. It's just clearance because it's not going to be available any longer. But if you buy the dies and the stamps separately when it's on last chance, you will save money. So keep that in mind. Another set that background stamp that we're going to use on this card, if you can see that little, like the dotted lines there, that is from this Lasting Linen background stamp. And this stamp is the size of the largest block we carry. It is very large. I actually used my Mini Misty when I used it because I wanted to be able to keep stamping if I needed to. And it was just a little easier, but you can definitely, I'm going to show you this stamp real quick. You could definitely just take the backing off of this and lay it on your surface and stamp right on it. You don't even have to put it on a block. But if you're trying to get even coverage, I would use a stamp positioner. All right, so that's that stamp set. I did want to let you know we have a new catalog and new online exclusives starting January 6th. And we also have bonus days. So bonus days is for every $50 you spend, you will earn a $5 coupon. This is going through February 2nd. I believe you can then use the coupon February 3rd through February 28th. And no matter how many coupons you have, you can use them all on one order. And you still earn rewards. So if you've opted in to earn rewards, you'll still earn 10% on your purchase to use toward a future purchase. So keep that in mind as you shop this month. Lots of good things coming up. I'll give you a couple of sneak peeks at the end of this video on some of the things that are coming up in the next catalog. Can't show you the catalog yet, but I can show you some of the items that I've purchased. All right, so let's start with this card. Okay, so this card is a tuck and fold pop-out card. And when you open it, look what it does. You have 2 boxes in there and it stands up. Isn't that awesome? So you have 2 boxes that pop up and then we're going to put our message on the back. All right. So this is using the Brushed with Beauty Suite collection. And we're going to use specifically this Petals of Beauty stamps and dies. So let's get started with that. Oh, I did actually use part of the other set. So the other set in that suite is called sorry, that was a sneak peek. Whoop. Words of Beauty. This also has dies. Let me see. Here we go. So the dies have 3 labels and then you have your shadow, and then 2 different sizes of the Just and Because. And then you have all of these words that you can use with Just Because. So Because I love you. You're so kind. You're so sweet. You're a great friend. It's your birthday. I appreciate you. I think you're amazing. We're going to use that stamp today. You've been on my mind. So, and lovely. So let me pull that out because I forgot to put that on the block. And I think, let's see, I think you're amazing. If I can find that one. There we go. There it is. Okay. I tend to, when I'm using words, I mount them on my block on a diagonal, because if you're trying to use the bottom of the block to make sure your words are straight, it doesn't always work out that way. But you can generally tell if it's straight looking at it like this. So we're going to do that. And then, let's see what we need out of this one. I've already die cut everything that we need, but we do have a little bit of stamping to do. So let me get those ready. And as you know, all of our stamps are now photopolymer. So that's exciting. I'm actually going to change this block so I can use this one. Okay, so we'll just do that. And then we need this large one and this small one here. All right, so let's start with our stamping. And I am going to get my ruler out so I can tell you some sizes. It's been a while since I've done these cards, so I don't remember all of the measurements, but I do want to make sure that you have them. So let's look at what we have here. So we started with a piece of cardstock in Petal Pink that is 8.5 by 5.5. It is scored, let's see, from left to right, it's scored at 1 3/4, 6, and 7 3/4. So 1 3/4, 6, and 7 3/4. Then I have done a mountain fold here, a mountain fold here, and then I'm folding this piece back. So they're not going to meet. It does if you don't fold that back, but they're not going to meet for the finished card. Okay, so that's what we have so far. Then we have a piece of cardstock, also Petal Pink. Now this one is 4 1/4. 4 1/4 by 6. It is scored at 1.5, 3, and 4.5. And all of these are getting folded in the same direction because it's going to create a box. So they're all going to be mountain folds, no valley folds here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and give them good scores. Okay. So you end up with a piece like this. Okay. Then we have a smaller piece. This is going to create our second box. This is 3.5 by 2. It is scored at 1/2 inch, 2.5, and 3. Okay. And then all of these are also getting folded inward. So they're all going to create the mountain folds as well. Okay. Trying to make sure I'm still on screen here. All right. So let's start out by decorating this piece. So I have strips of DSP, and this is from the Brushed with Beauty DSP. Now these two pieces are going to go on that small flap, so I'm going to set those aside. And then the longer pieces are going to go on the front and here. So let's set that aside as well. What we need are these two floral pieces that are going to fit in right here. And I will give you the measurements on these. This is 4 by 1 1/4. Okay, so 4 by 1 1/4. You need two pieces that size. And we are going to adhere those to the two middle sections of that larger box that we did. So let's go ahead and do that. What did everybody do for New Year's? I did some card making and then had a little bit of champagne and watched a little TV and went to bed. I think I made it to 11:50. I didn't make it quite to midnight. You know, as you get older, it's not as exciting, is it? I know my daughters all had exciting things to do last night, as they should, right? Young people should. All right. So that's that first part. Now, let's adhere this to the inside of our card. So this smaller piece is on the right, okay? Our smaller flap. Sorry, I got way too many pieces here. I'm folding this in half. I'm actually going to put glue on this outer piece that's not decorated, okay? And I'm going to put this up. I'm centering it top to bottom, and I'm putting it as close to that score mark as I possibly can. And then I'm going to fold that in, and I'm going to rub it to make sure it's adhering really well. Okay. Then we can open the card. We're going to put glue on the back side and do the same thing. Close the card. So I'm actually going to turn the card this way. Hopefully you can still see that. Add glue. And I would say you want either liquid glue or score tape for this because you really want it to hold up to people opening and closing it. Okay. And the only reason I'm rubbing this is just to make sure that it's getting good adhesion. So now when I open it, look at that. Isn't that fun? So now we have our first box. All right. So now let's look at this little piece. So this little piece, I want the 2 fold marks on the right. And let's just make sure that is correct. Yes. No, it's not. Sorry, I was wrong. We actually want the 2 fold marks on the left. We're going to adhere this piece to this box. So let's do that. So I'm just going to put glue on that 1 single fold mark. And I'm gluing it right to the top of this. So again, I'm going to center it top to bottom as best as I can. And I'm getting it right to that edge of that box. Give that a good press. Oh, it slid on me a little bit. There we go. Okay, give that a good press. Now, before I glue this down completely, I am going to take a piece of Petal Pink that I have embossed. And this is with that beautiful motif folder, which looks like... Nope, it's not that one. Hang on a second. I thought I had it out, but I don't. So let me find it. Here it is. This is just called Beautiful Pattern. I don't know that you can see that, but I'm going to adhere that just to add a little interest behind our die cut flower. So let's get that on there. I do use a little bit more glue when I'm using an embossed piece, just because you have all those raised areas. All right, so then that's going to be just kind of centered on there. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put, we're going to put glue. Sorry, I'm trying to turn this so that I can show you. On this last flap, okay? So glue the last flap. Then I'm going to fold both score lines in like this. And I'm going to close this side, and that will put my glue right where it needs to be on this side. Give that a good rub down. Now we have both boxes in our card. Okay, and then the rest is just decorating it the way we like. All right, so let's start with this piece here. So I'm going to use this, and this again is from that suite of products. It's called Brush with Beauty, and this is the Brush with Beauty DSP. So I'm going to adhere this to the front flap. Okay. And that's going to be centered all the way around. And all I did was make this a 1/4 inch smaller than what the size of the front flap is. So it's like 1.5 by 5 1/4. Okay, then on the inside, I'm going to use another piece of that patterned paper. And look at that back side. It's got some really pretty patterns like florals, but there's also, you know, these that you can use on masculine cards, which is nice. I like a paper pack that I can use for more than just floral cards, right? So it's nice that there's a more neutral on the back. Okay, so now I have these 2 thin strips. This one's actually going to go here, and I'm going to center it top to bottom, but also from this crease to this box, side to side. Okay. And again, that's just to add a little interest. Make it look like we don't have a blank spot there for any reason. There we go. Okay. And then our last piece of DSP is going to go on our small flap over here. Let's go ahead and put that on. Hopefully you can't hear my cat toy that's going on in the other room. I have a toy for my boys that hangs from a door frame, and one of them must have walked past it and turned it on. But it keeps them entertained, so I like it. All right, so that's all of our DSP. And then this piece just tucks here and you fold it flat. So that's why it's called that tuck and fold. Okay, so now we need to do a little bit of stamping. So let's do that. This is our back piece. I'm going to use Petal Pink and Calypso Coral because those are colors that are in our paper. And I'm going to start with the background of the stamp, not the detail part. And that I'm inking up in Petal Pink. And I'm just going to put that in the upper corner, like so. And then we're going to add the detail piece with Calypso Coral. And there's another stamp that I need. Let me see if I can. Got quite the mess going here. Now I can't find my stamps. All right, let's see. What did I do with those? Oh, here they are. They're stuck to the back of another piece. Okay. So we do need this little leaf piece, which means I need some Mossy Meadow. So let me get that. All right. Now I think I have everything I need. Okay. So this is the detail piece. And sorry if you see my head, but I'm trying to get a little closer so I can get that to be as close as possible. Wow. Actually, I don't think I could do that again. I got that pretty darn close, didn't I? Okay. So then we have this little greenery piece. And I'm just coming in, and it's okay if this hangs off. We don't need the whole thing, but I do want it to look like it's part of the flower. So I have it really close to the one petal. Okay. So that's the back piece. Now we can glue that on. Let's go ahead and do that. Move that out of the way before we have a disaster. I have been known to get ink on things, so don't want to do that. All right. So we'll put this on the back side. Now, if you didn't want to do this back piece, say you're somebody who doesn't like to write a long message, of course you could put a nice big sentiment on here too and take up some more space. But if you don't want to, you could sign, but you're not going to have much space to sign here. All right, so on the inside, we need this 3-leaf piece, and then we have this detailed piece that I have cut in gold. And we're going to put that right on the center of that embossed piece. Now, this has pieces that are, cut so that they're kind of hanging. So I do try to make sure that I get glue on those little pieces just so they don't end up getting ripped off, as people are handling the card. All right. And then I'm going to try to make sure that those pieces are actually glued onto this piece. Now, it's okay if it hangs over on this side, but we don't want it to hang over here because then you won't have room. And you want to make sure you don't get a ton of glue on here because you don't want it to glue your card closed either. All right, so this piece, I'm actually going to hang down here. And I'm hanging it to the left so that when I close my card, it's not hanging out. So I'm only putting glue right on the tip of that. Okay. And like I said, I'm going to put it in here. And I'm going to close the card before I put it down because I want to get it as close to that fold as I can. I'm going to hold that down for a second so it has time to adhere. So now, when I close my card, you don't see it. See, it's not sticking out down here, but it pops out when you open it. Okay. Now, the one thing I do know that I forgot was a strip of vanilla for It's Your Birthday. So let me grab a tiny strip of vanilla. Okay. And we're going to stamp that in green. So let's get all our sentiments stamped right now. All right. So on this piece, I'm going to stamp, actually, let's do this one first so I can reuse my block. So I've cut this from the banner punch, the triple banner punch that's new. That's a nice one. It's from the Banner Sayings set that comes with a punch if you buy the bundle. So I'm going to get this I Think You're Amazing in here. And again, I'm sorry if my head's in the way or if I bump the camera. Okay, so we got I Think You're Amazing. It just fits. So that's nice. And then, let me clean that off so I can use my block again. I haven't been a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator that long, so I don't have, multiples of all the blocks. So forgive me for cleaning that and redoing it. Okay, so that's one sentiment. Now let's do It's Your Birthday. I'm hoping I'm still on screen here. I'm sorry if I'm not. I'm trying to check that out a little bit as I go. Okay, this I'm just going to put right in the middle because we're actually going to cut that. So that'll be fine. Okay, and then the last stamping we have is, I've already cut the triple flower, but we need to stamp it. So I'm going to ink it up in Petal Pink, and then I'm going to take a sponge dauber in the Calypso Coral. I've tried this different ways, and I did not like the way it looked, so I'm just kind of going around the edges here to get some of that darker color in and make it more interesting. So can you see that? Now, if we can line this up, we'll be doing good. Okay. It's not too great, but you know what? I'll just trim those bigger sides off and we're going to use it. Okay, so let me close up these ink pads. I think we're done with the stamping part. I do have this Timid Tiger. No, sorry, this is Darling Duckling. Timid Tiger is the orange. I'm just going to add a little bit of that in there. And I'm going to do that back here too. Just so our flower doesn't look like it has a hole in it. All right, this I am going to trim a little bit. Grab my scissors. Because I don't like how that looks. Now this would have been easier if I had stamped first and then cut it out for sure. Or if I could have had my head in the camera a little more, but you know what? We'll make use of it. There's always a way to fix things. Okay, so let's go like that. And I think that's okay. All right, let's get some of that off of here. All right, so let's bring our card back in. We actually need to do a little trimming on this It's Your Birthday. I don't know, I've had this forever, but I do like this trimmer for this kind of work because I can line up what it says right in that plastic piece, and I know I'm getting really close without cutting it off completely. Now, I will give you a little tip. Because my piece of cardstock is so thin, I'm actually going to attach a Post-it note to it. So I'm going to do it on this side. And then that way I can get in here without losing my piece. And again, I'm cutting it really close, so I'm going to have to turn it around on this one and do that again. Like so. So now we have this nice little thin piece, which I'm then going to cut It's Your and Birthday apart, like so. And that's going to go on the inside of our card. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that, and then the inside of our card will actually be done. So I'm going to adhere Birthday first. Looks like I got that a little thinner than the other piece, but we're going to go ahead and use it. Right? Because handmade cards are not going to be perfect, are they? Okay, again, I'm putting this all the way over here as far to the left as I can get it. So I have it literally butted up against that piece. That way, when I close the card, it's not going to show. And then, our birthday. Okay. Oop. I am going to be full of glue after this one. All right. So we have both of those in. So now the inside is truly complete. Let me get the glue off my fingers before I move on here. All right, so let's go ahead and close that. Now I want to attach this piece, and I only want it glued to the small 1/2-inch flap. Okay, so I'm only going to put dots of glue on this side, the end of the leaves, so the tip. So just on each one that's on that side. And then I'll put, actually I'm not going to put it there because I'm going to tuck that under. So I'm going to tuck the stem underneath, and then I'm going to place these on here, like so. And you do want to hold that down for a minute so it stays. So this is going to be kind of free and loose here. However, I do want to add just a tiny, tiny bit of glue on the front side of that stem so that I can glue that to that flap and it doesn't go flying off. That way it's not going to get caught on something and come off. Okay, so we have that, and I do have a little bit of glue on there, so let's get that off. Oh, if we don't rip it off first. Okay, I'll let that dry a little longer. All right, then the next thing we're going to add is the leaf. So both of these dies are from this set, from the Pretty Petals set. And I'm going to put that on here. And now this one, I'm not going to put any glue on anything that's hanging over. We don't want anything glued down to this box. Okay, so I'm only going to put glue. Let's kind of look at this. So I'm going to put it on the inside of these two leaves, the outside of this one, and maybe the bottom of those two leaves. So let's start with the bottom of those two. So we got here and here, and I will put some there. Then I said the inside, and this one, it's going to be this side. Okay, so that's all the glue I have because I'm not trying to get it on anything else. Okay, and then we're going to adhere those. Hold that down for a second. Boy, some of my things don't want to glue down. Oh, okay, no, I didn't. I thought I glued it to this, but I didn't. Okay, so see, it's just glued to that front side, and I am going to turn it over. I don't have any glue anywhere over here. Okay. Then we have our 3 flowers, which I am going to pop up with some mini dimensionals. And let me just find those real quick. Here we go. You can use my Take Your Pick tool. Now, these I'm actually going to go ahead and put on all 3 flowers because I'm going to make sure they're attached to these green leaves. Okay, so I do have dimensionals on those 3 flowers. Okay, like so. And I'm going to put those right about here. And they're okay because they're attached to this piece, not this piece. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to do is put 1 glue dot right in the middle of this. Sorry, not a glue dot, a dimensional. And I'm going to use the larger one, I think. And we're only going to adhere that right in the middle because, again, we don't want anything to go off on this piece or this piece. Okay, so that's going to go right here. Making sure that that is where I'm telling you to put it. So we have I Think You're Amazing there. Let me tuck that back in. And then our last step on this card is to add our embellishments. And let's see, what embellishments did I use? I used Pearls of Beauty. So those come in 3 different colors, and that is part of that suite as well. The embossing folder is part of that suite. There's quite a bit in it. Let's see. So you get Pearls of Beauty, the beautiful pattern embossing folder, 2 stamp sets and die sets, the 12 by 12 DSP, and then you also get 12 by 12 vellum because vellum is back, which is very exciting. All right, I'm going to put 1 large one there and then a smaller one here. And I think now this one I am going to adhere to this box. just going to kind of stick that right about there. Okay, so all our embellishments are actually on the box, but there's our finished card. What do you think of that one? I hope you enjoyed that one. If you have any questions, please make sure you put them in the comments. I will try to make sure that I read those to answer you. All right, now let me clean up just a little bit, and then we'll move on to the other card, the pop-up petals card. Now that one I have everything already stamped and cut out, but I am going to show you how I stamped some of the things. Okay, so let me just clean some of these so I have blocks to use. So photopolymer does stain. It does not affect how it stamps. I've been using photopolymer stamps since 2003, and I love them. They're so nice to use. All right, let's take this off. Put that back on. All right. So we're done with that one. Just want to cover this so I don't end up having it stick to something else, and then I'm looking for it later. All right, now let's move on to this next one. So this is, sorry, move those out of the way. This is the next card we're going to do. So let me pull in the colors that we're going to use for that. We're going to use Blackberry Bliss and Darling Duckling again. And these stamps, what's nice, you could color them, but they actually have the stamp to fill in the color on the flowers. So love that. All right. So I'm going to pull some things off just to, let's start stamping and get everything that we need stamped done first. So, all right, I have all my pieces here. So I just have a strip of paper. I don't know, I think it's like 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. Yeah, it's about 2 3/4, 2.5 by 5 3/4. Okay. So I stamped, oh, you know what? I don't have all the colors out that I need. Hang on a second. I thought I was prepared, but I guess I wasn't. All right. So on this one, we need to do a pot. And I'm just doing this in crumb cake. So I have my pot on there. And then I need to do some flowers and some leaves. So let's do this flower. So that's our daisy. Okay. And I'm going to stamp that in Memento ink. And I'm going to put that all the way over here on this side. Like so. Okay. So then we have that one. And what else do we need? We need 3 of this tulip kind of flower. Again, stamped in Memento ink. We need 3 of those. I'm trying to think what else I need here. Yep. So let's get those. I think I'm going to do like 1 here, 1 here, and 1 about here, like so. And then the last thing that we need to do is the leaf. Now, there are dies for all of these except for this leaf. Now, this one I'm actually going to do in Mossy Meadow. And I'm just going to put that right in here. So So this one you'll have to fussy cut. And I'm actually not going to take the time to cut all these. I just wanted to show you how I stamped them and did all the fill-in. So now for this piece, there's this piece right here. And that is going to fill in all of our flowers. So let's get that on a block. And I just have to figure out, there's a larger flower on this side. So I'm going to do that. So I do want to stamp off on that as well. So let me grab a piece of scrap paper here. Okay. All right. So I'm using Blackberry Bliss, which is one of my favorite colors. Now, you could go full strength. Maybe I will. I think that was full strength. We are going to stamp off on these tulips, though. All right, so this, I just have to get it lined up, and excuse my head, I'm sorry for that. But I love that I can choose if I want to color it in or just stamp it. Because sometimes we don't want to have to color everything in, right? All right. Now, we do have to color, however, our leaves. There is, nope, there is not a stamp for the flower center either. So the flower center, I'm just going to use my Darling Duckling, like so. And this is the dark one. I am going to, after that dries for a second, I'm going to come back over here and just do over these dots, just to darken that up a little bit, like so. Okay. And then we can color in our leaves. I'm using the bullet end instead of the brush end. So I can get in there, like so. But look how quick these fill in. Isn't that nice? Not everybody likes to color, right? I'm going to go ahead and do the leaves while I'm here. Because that's the only thing they don't have. And actually, we only need 2 of these, so I'm only going to do 2. Well, I guess it would help if I did the stem too, so it doesn't look like they're floating. So let me try to get into there, like so. And then this stem. Like so. Okay. And then the last thing we need to color, and I'm going to find a tiny block for this because I don't want to have a lot of color. So I'm going to stamp one of these tulips full strength, like so. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do the second one like that. Okay, so that's all the stamping on that card that we need to do right now. And I'm actually going to put that aside because I have already done all of that. So let's see what we have here. I have a feeling they fell off onto the floor when I was moving things around. Here they are. All right. So there's all of our pieces. Now this, I wanted to show you this with the stamp set too, or the die, because this is kind of fun. So I used the larger pop-up piece for this one. These are, if you want to make this look like it has box flaps, you'll cut those and you fold them over the edge of this to create a box. I didn't do that, but I did take this polka dot stamp and I had Post-it notes top and bottom and sides and just stamped the polka dots there. Okay, so let's go ahead and adhere this inside the card. And I'm going to do it, you want to make sure it's pretty close to your fold. Okay, so let's go ahead and adhere that. Now, I am making sure I get glue all the way around this edge because you don't want that pulling up, but you don't want any glue on the actual piece that pops up. So can you see how we have that cut out there? Now I'm going to center this so I have an even border and make sure it's up as close as I can. I didn't get such an even border, but that's all right. Okay, so now that I have the back side glued down, oh, this is actually from an upcoming stamp set called Gears and Textures. It's a very great masculine set. But I just thought that that edge needed something, so that's why I used it for this. And I will give you a little sneak peek of that set. But again, I'm going around that whole cutout piece. And then I'm just going to close my card. Now this piece does stick out, and that's okay because we're going to hide that. All right, let me get these things out of the way. And now we're going to decorate this piece. So I have this piece of DSP. I believe this was on the last chance. I don't know if it's still available. That's something that you'll have to check. It is called, let's see. This is the Floral Charm DSP. It's item number 166125, if that's something you're interested in. I do believe it was on the last chance list, though, and again, I forgot to check and see if that was still available. I apologize. All right. So let's go ahead and get that put on. So this is just a 5.5 by 8.5 card base that I have scored at 4 1/4 and 2 3/4. Nope, sorry, 2 1/8, because this is your 4 1/4. So 2 1/8 and then 4 1/4. Okay. So then here's our pop-up piece. Let's go ahead and decorate that before we get the labels on. So what we need for that are the 2 tulips and the leaves. And I am going to put, let's see, I'm going to put the darker of the 2 tulips all the way to the right. I'm only putting glue on the stems, just on the stem. And I'm going to put that here. I am using our Tombow green glue. I just have it in my Sweet Petunia glue press because I do have a lot of arthritis in my hands. Okay, I'm doing the same thing, just on the stem, and I'm kind of tucking that behind that tulip, still on the right, like so. Okay, and then our last one is going to go on the left. So again, just on the stem, and that's going to go over here. And you can go, you know, from the bottom and press it for a second. You want to make sure you don't have a lot of glue though, because you don't want it to stick closed when you close the card. All right, so now I have 2 of the branching out dies, and I'm going to put this one so that it is centered on my card front. I'm trying to hide my little pop-up piece. I'm only going to put glue on the left half. Okay. So I'm not going all the way to the center either because I don't want to end up gluing my card shut. Okay. So then we're doing that right here, centered top to bottom and side to side. Like so. And again, you can see I don't have any glue on this part. And then we're going to add this one, which I used that linen background stamp on. And the thanks for being here comes from this stamp set. So this has, thanks for being there, grateful for your friendship. You get me and I appreciate that. And you make life better, just my life better, just by being in it. Let's have some really nice sentiments. All right, so let's go ahead and adhere this one. Like so. Okay. Boy, I didn't get that very straight, did I? There we go. Okay, I'm going to use a dimensional on the back of the pot. And I'm actually going to put 2 on here. So I'm going to put 1 on each side like this. Okay. Like so. And I'm putting this really close to the bottom. I don't want to end up covering my sentiment with the flowers. And then again, I'm just putting glue right on the stems here at the bottom. And I'm going to tuck that into my pot. And I'm going to press it down and then it'll end up, oh, you know what? Nope. I did have glue dots on that. So, or sorry, dimensional. So let's do that. I'm like, that's standing up a lot. There we go. I know that kind of seems like overkill, but that's all right. Now it'll just tuck right into that, down into the pot here. And I'm kind of tucking that one leaf hanging over the pot. All right, last thing we have to do is add our embellishments. So let's see what I used on that. I believe I used these swirl dots. And I'm going to go ahead and use this pecan pie color because it kind of matches in here. So we're going to put 1 here, 1 here, and I'm going to put another one up here, like so. All right, that is our finished project. Ta-da! Love that pop-up. All right, I told you I would give you some sneak peeks of some items. So this is a card made with gears and textures. And here's what that stamp set looks like. But here are the dies. Look at those. All the gears. So fun. So that is a new set that's coming out next Tuesday. And then you already got a little sneak peek of this one because I had it out by mistake. This one is called, where did it go? Sorry. Here it is. Peaceful Dock. And then here are the dies for that. So it's got the fun lily pads and all kinds of fun things in that one. So that's another one that's coming out. Did I have another one made up that I can show you? This is I think this might be the Pretty Petals set also. And then this is the True Blue DSP that you can get for $5 if you spend $75. It was the product of the month in December, but it's still available. So you can get only one. So no, it doesn't matter if you spend, $75 several times, you can only get one of these a month. But if you didn't get it in December and it's still available, you can get the December one. And then you can also get the January product of the month, which I don't even know what that is yet. I'm going to have to look. But this is a pop gift card holder. So I have a little slider mechanism on there. Isn't that fun? All right. I hope you enjoyed our projects today. Let me bring those back in here. So we had our tuck and fold pop-up card, pop-up surprise, and then our pop-up card using the pop-up petals stamp set. So if you enjoyed the projects today, please give me a thumbs up and like this video so that you can, and subscribe. That way you can find out when I have other videos available. I am going to try to start doing maybe a Technique Tuesday video, at least once a month, because I think I'm going to start a technique club. So I'll keep you posted about that. Be on the lookout. And I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful new year and that you stay healthy and happy this year. Have a great evening, and I will see you next time. Bye.